TOA community, welcome back everybody. Wednesdays with Robert. This is episode number 23. We are going to talk about all kinds of great stuff today, including my thoughts on the Andrew Huberman. We are going to talk about cold water treatment. We're going to talk about axial loading with belt squats. We're going to talk about girth measurement ratios. Everybody loves to measure their girth. All you ladies out there, girth measurements are the best things you could come home with and say, guess what I got at the gym today? All my measurements done, how girthy I am. Anyway, not exactly what you're thinking. And then we're going to dive into a Silver Sneakers article. I know, shocker, I found one that is questionable. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Let's start off right from the get-go. Let's start off with the girth measurements. So this is one of those, well, let me preface this by saying last week in episode 22, we talked about bone density and muscle mass and body types, and we kind of dove into all of that. So as Keegan was listening to that episode, she thought there's got to be a way that you can figure out what kind of bone density you are without going to get a bone density scan, because not everybody has access to a bone density scanner and or doesn't want to pay for it. Bone density scans can be independently purchased for $100 to $200, somewhere around in there, or if it's covered by your insurance, you know, whatever your deductible is, that kind of a thing. I have asked twice now to have a bone density scan, as I've had multiple joint replacements. I'm over the age of 40, and I had cancer. And even though I didn't go through cancer treatment, I just had my tumor removed, technically still had cancer. And so those are all criteria typically for people to have bone density concerns. So I've asked twice, and both times I've been told this is not a concern, you don't need to go, and was basically told no. But if I really wanted one, that I would have to come out of pocket to do it. So I can understand it may not be the easiest thing to get, is my point. So she started to look into this a little bit, and we found this Medline Plus, National Library of Medicine, and they had just a real basic one based on measuring your wrist. How simple, right? If you're measuring your wrist for a watch or something along those lines, women under a height of 5'2", or between 5'2" and 5'5", or over 5'5", they had different measurements where if your wrist, if you're, let's say you're 5'8", okay, like Keegan's 5'8", her wrist was 6.125 inches, something like that. So it's on the small side. So by that measurement, she's under the 6.25. She technically has small bone density based on this measurement, right? For her sex, her height, and her wrist measurement. Now, if it was over 6.5, then you could say that she has a larger bone density, right? Or a larger bone mass size to her based on the thickness of her wrist. Now, is this perfect science? By no means. Some people carry more muscle mass, more body fat, just more hydration. Like maybe you're on creatine, maybe you're drinking a whole bunch of salty liquids, you're drinking a bunch of Gatorade, you're trying to retain water for your race you have coming up. Anyway, all kinds of different things can go into modifying the measurements of your body from day to day, let alone hour to hour even, depending how hydrated you are, etc. So this isn't an exact science, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. So I wanted to share that on here. And then for men over 5'5", you have your wrist measurements there. That was about as deep as they got into it. So anybody on here that's questioning, I wonder how dense my bones are and if I'm a big boned individual or not, we talked about the 3 sliding scales that Dr. Mike Israetel showed us. Basically looked at individuals as being big boned or not, more muscular or not, or over body fat or not, as opposed to endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, right? And how would you classify those? Well, here's one with the bone density. You can do your scan, a bod pod scan, or have your body fat measured via calipers or dunk tanks, etc., to figure out the other two. So that should give you a little bit of an idea on it. Shifting gears into polar plunging, ice plunging, cold therapy treatments, etc. Very good research that supports, for the majority of people, not everybody, but for the majority of people out there, that cold water treatment does, number one, make your body feel pretty nice and pretty good for an extended period of time. You get a dopamine rush up to 250 times more than you would get from almost anything else. There's quality returns for clarity and cognition and how well your body just feels in general. I feel very euphoric. That's the dopamine, but my body feels great for hours afterwards. And I have yet to do a dunk and then go work out, but my buddy John does that on a regular. So anyhow, looking at options for potentially getting a ice treatment or a cold water therapy treatment in home. These can go anywhere from $20,000 down to a $50 gallon of or barrel that you would have to fill up with water in your own ice and spend, $20 to $30 every time you want to do it, just to get enough ice in there to get the water under 50 degrees, let alone down into the mid to low 40s where you really want it. The research looks at 3 minutes every time you do a dunk, and that you would want the water around 40 to 45 degrees. It's kind of ideal. Anything colder than 40 degrees, really it's like 42 or 43, I think they said. Anything colder than that, 32 degrees is gonna freeze. So 33 to 39, anywhere in there is basically just you being a tolerant badass to, being able to manage that kind of cold. But were there greater benefits to going colder? Not necessarily. So anywhere in the mid 40s, if you could get around 43, 44, 45 degrees, be in there for 3 minutes, you're good. Is it more beneficial to do 4 or 5 minutes or 6 minutes? You can play with those types of time frames and different temperatures and systems like this one. I know nothing about this company or about the product. My buddy John sent me this and said, hey, here's an option where everything's pretty much included in one kit, and you can get them in all kinds of different colors, blue, red, orange, green, so they can meet your company, needs if you wanted to do that. You get the cooler / the tub, the chiller, a pump, the temperature control, the ozone, all the heat, all that stuff that goes in there, and it'll go hot as well. So you can make this into a hot tub therapy treatment as well. The hoses, everything in there, it's about 220 pounds worth of stuff. I just wanted to show that as it's got some very good reviews to it. And a lot of people have said how great of a kind of a kit this is if there's something you want to look into with cold water therapy treatment. With that being said, Andrew Huberman is the individual that I learned my introduction to cold water therapy known as it is today. When I was in college throwing the hammer, we did ice treatment every day. I sat in a bucket up to my chest line to ice my hips and my back and my legs every day after I threw, every day after we would lift. We had the football team and all the throwers out there. They just had, 20 buckets all lined up, these big, like horse trophy kind of buckets. And they would just fill them with ice and water, and everybody would hop in, and you'd stay in there for 5 to 10 minutes and get out, and another person would pop in. Some of the sprinters and such would look like a bobsled team. They would all hop in there, together. Others were just putting their ankles in to, do their ankle that's injured or their knees, etc. Rarely would we get in all the way up to our neck unless we were dealing with an injury somewhere around our chest or our shoulders. There are some cautions for getting the cold water on your face. Some people will have neurological responses that will cause them to black out. If you black out and you're in water, you're probably going to drown if someone's not with you. So you want to do at least your first couple cold water therapies with other individuals just to see how your body reacts. And then you can start to, maybe do it on your own if that's a demand or something that you want. I don't want you to meet your demise because I told you to go hop in an ice bucket is my point. Okay. Oh, jeepers. Live on air. Joking moment, excuse me. The other one is getting your hands in the cold can be just as detrimental or have the same response. I learned this one firsthand. Ice, face, whole head, everything fine. Put my hand directly into a bucket of ice water. About 30 seconds in, next thing I know, I'm waking up on the floor in the athletic training room with everyone looking over me, and they're like, "Are you okay? How do you feel?" And how did I get on the floor? You blacked out. And so the teacher knew this and plucked me. He goes, "It's always the biggest guy in the room." I'm like, "Cool, thanks for picking on me." But was prepared to lay me down, having a very good idea that I would be an individual that would black out. Some people, again, we have very high nerve endings and sensation in our hands, in our feet, and on our face. And so those will be areas that if they are exposed to extreme cold, you could have that response as well. So anyway, I learned a lot of this from Dr. Andrew Huberman. And Andrew Huberman is someone that I've leaned on for getting great information. He's an individual that has a medical background and a teaching background, and so he's excellent to listen to. He has a great podcast, has awesome content. I love his content and I love what he delivers. I personally enjoy Peter Attia more, just because of I guess it's just the way that he presents his content, even the tone of his voice, etc. Not that Andrew's annoying. I don't mean that by any means. It's just I learn a little bit better and I enjoy listening to Peter's content a little more. But the two of them, when they do a podcast together, fire. I mean, it's such a good thing. And I'm a member of Peter Attia's online education program. We subscribe to a membership every year and get all of his content, and it's awesome. It's so worth it. It's $150 for the year, and you get access to everything and all of his show notes, and it's just awesome stuff. So anyway, on there, I'm listening. I get introduced to Huberman. I start listening to some Huberman's podcasts and such. Great information. Of course, my area of expertise and where my interests lie are specific to the world not that one, of resistance training and learning about the value of resistance training and how you can take the research and the information that they're sharing and bring that to the public and sell them on the idea of this is really good for you, right? Like this is a great thing for you to be participating in. That's the hardest sell, and where we have so much trouble is trying to educate individuals on that, the general public, if you will. So that's where Peter and where Huberman, these guys, they deliver great content that is a huge, huge help. Okay. In this video, I'm going to see if I can't fast forward a little bit. Okay, here we go. So here's Huberman getting into this. I'm gonna just expose you a little bit to some of his content, and then I'll give you my thoughts on him. We're going to come back to this in a second, by the way. I just can't exactly fast forward the way that I want to. We'll be back to this in just a few minutes. It takes me a little bit to get these videos uploaded. It's actually quite the process. So I can talk over them, let alone have them on the screen, and I don't have to screen share. There's audio issues, all this, so I have to basically lump that all into one big video and then find where I want to go. So anyhow, apologies for getting through this part here. Okay.
Necessary. Why was it necessary?
Either a 72-pound ruck back.
All right, so here's Huberman, and he's with Cameron Hanes, and they are talking about this experience of cardiovascular work that they did, where Cameron Hanes is this exceptional athlete. He's a fantastic archer, and took Andrew out on a ruck hike. They had a sandbag that you could carry on your neck or on your shoulders. They had a backpack, I think, that you could wear, and then they had a rock that you could carry. And it was, 2 miles or something like that to the top of this hill. And so these are the videos you're seeing of this. All I can tell you is that every time Huberman's on a podcast, he looks like that. He's wearing a black shirt. It's long sleeved. He's all covered up. And you can tell, number one, he's not fat. You can tell he's fit, but you can't really see what kind of level of fit he is. And then I see Cameron Hanes, and I see this video that he puts up, and I go, holy cow. Like, I had no idea that Huberman was built like this. I had no idea that he was this jacked. I mean, this dude, let me find this one particular photo of him in this. I was just blown away by how muscular he is and how fit he is. It caught me completely off guard. I've seen Peter without his shirt on, and you look at him and you're like, that's a fit guy. And he's a hell of an athlete, and he's done some amazing athletic endeavors. And I knew that, that Andrew was a fit guy, but I didn't know he looked like that. I mean, he looks like Zeus and Gerard Butler had a love child, and it's like, look at this guy. Like, he's completely sculpted and ripped. I mean, and this guy on here is talking about like, oh yeah, he's got this great upper body, but does he train his legs? And yes, he does. He does train his legs, which is pretty much what you see in most cases. Individuals right here. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this guy. I mean, come on, dude. Not only are you one of the best podcasters, you're extremely intelligent, and you look like fucking Brad Pitt in Troy. Like, look at this dude. I mean, it just blew me away. I am a fan. I mean, remember, I grew up admiring Frank Zane, Franco Columbu, Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like that whole kind of the golden era of bodybuilding. And you're taking an era in time and going, these are the muscular frames that I hope to aspire to, right? To build my body to. As I develop through into my athletic career, bodybuilding changes and it all becomes about mass. And you have Coleman and you have, who's the Temple Gym guy? Dorian Yates, who's just brick shithouse guys, Jay Cutler, and you know, that whole generation of bodybuilders, they were just gigantic. Like we kind of lost the classic physique that is now considered classic physique. And the Olympia is almost like a freak kind of a thing. Like these guys are just so big. And so the frames that we admire, that I personally admire, aren't that of the Ronnie Colemans. I think it's awesome what he did, and he won Mr. Olympia 8 times, and it's amazing to be that big and strong. But this type of frame, to me, is a strong, muscular frame that is athletic and capable of doing anything and everything, carrying a 75-pound rock up to the top of a mountain. And you can do chin-ups and pull-ups and push-ups and back squat your body weight and deadlift twice your body weight. And like, it's an athletic frame. So I admire that. I aspire to that. Like that's something that when I saw it, I just thought, man, I got to spend a couple of minutes talking about this guy. Look at him. Just traps and pecs and delts and arms and thighs and the complete package. Anyway, from one man to another, I find that the amount of work you have to put into your body to make it look like that, the level of commitment and such, that you're one of my heroes, because I admire and want to be able to produce something like that myself. And that is inspiring. And I think that goes across the board, from men to women, across the board. I think you have individuals. Keegan will send me pictures of a girl that she saw in a Peloton video, and she's like, look at this girl's legs and look at this girl's shoulders. I want to have that. We all have these things that we see and we go, I want to, you know, aspire to and dedicate my body to be able to produce something like that. Well, I've got a new individual that I can look up to, because he's a brilliant dude and takes very good care of himself. So, Andrew Huberman, if for any reason you ever see this, know that I'm giving you fireworks, buddy. I love everything you're doing. You keep it up. I'm inspired, and you're doing great work with others. Okay, man crush moment over. Let's get into, I'm totally cool that I'm married with 2 kids. I'm a happy individual, but I do admire other individuals. I think that's pretty badass. Okay, we're going to get into this one. Brittany Risher. This is from August this year. And, you know, silver sneakers, I say it in almost every video, they get so close. They're so close to producing good stuff. And you've got such a mass audience. I wish you would just deliver the message that we all need to hear, which is muscle mass is important. Not huge muscle mass, period. People need to be, that are deconditioned and under-muscled, they need to be conditioned and adequately muscled. And there's plenty of information out there to support male, female, at what age, at what height, at what sex, etc., what you should be at to be considered a healthy or above healthy individual, okay? So there's no question, in my opinion, on that. When you get into these suggestions in these articles, the key component that's missing, and I'm jumping the shark here of a couple of the slides, is one key component, and it shows up in every one of these, and it drives me crazy, okay? Somebody remind me towards the end of this about a doctor's appointment we had yesterday, and something this doctor said that blew my mind, okay? Just remind me of that towards the end. All right, 5 exercises for healthy shoulders. These are simple moves, posture, mobility, etc. She goes into some medical research at Maryland. They looked at different ways to improve shoulder health, that it's no shock as we get older. The shoulders start to experience more pain, less mobility, etc. Why do you think that is? Okay. Why is it, let's ask this question first. Why is it that the majority of older populations, and I'm going to say, let's just say over 50, the majority of people over the age of 50 experience more shoulder issues than they do hip issues? This is a ball and socket joint, okay? And I want to say the shoulder injury limitation, don't quote me, but I want to say that majority of folks, it was like 63 to 68% experience shoulder issues. Not that they need a shoulder surgery or that they have to have a shoulder replacement. We're not going that far. They just have a shoulder issue, as opposed to like 38 to 44%, something like that for the hip, okay? So it was a solid 20% more had shoulder issues than the hips. Why do you think that is? What do we walk around on all day long? What musculature is being used all day long and which one is being neglected, okay? My mom had this issue with her shoulders. Doctor said, you have a frozen shoulder. This was in her 60s. What do I do about that? Well, you don't comb your hair anymore. You don't reach overhead. You don't put away the dishes. You just can't do anything overhead. And she goes, well, I don't really accept that. Like, she's got this big, beautiful beehive hairdo from the 60s that she still rocks. And it's like, I still want to be able to put my arms over my head, do stuff. I put away the dishes. My shoulder hurts all the time. So what do you got for me, doc? Well, we could fix your shoulder, etc. But the reason that this has developed is because you just don't put your arms over your head anymore. And thus, your body will either use it or lose it. And in this case, because mom doesn't put her arms vertically over her head really ever, after decades of not doing that, the body just loses the ability to do so. So it's like, why don't our hips just stop working? And why do we, why do we decrease inability to walk and balance as we get older? Because we don't take the bigger, more athletic steps. As we get older, we spend more and more time seated. We spend more and more time doing less active, less athletic activities, and thus our gait gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So as we get older, typically we get less balanced, less coordinated, less stable, and have more fall injuries than we do when we're younger. It's not because, well, it's smaller steps are more balanced and bigger steps are less. That's all horseshit. None of that is accurate. Or else all of us 20, 30-year-olds, not that I'm lumping myself in there, but all the 20 and 30-year-olds would take small little wobbly steps too and waddle around and look like zombies walking around if that was the safest and the most stable way to walk. That is not. They take these big, long, striated steps, big triangular positions, because those are very strong. When you take little tiny steps, you're more like a top. Tops spin perfectly while they're in balance, but the second they get out of balance, what happens? They tumble down to the earth pretty hard. So because we're not using this as we get older, we are losing it. And the exact same thing goes for the shoulder. If you aren't doing circumductions and moving your arms all around and working through high ranges of motion and lifting weights and pushing and pulling and pressing and rowing, if you're not doing all of those things, then your shoulders are going to start to decrease in ability and strength and stability and function. And thus we will have more shoulder impingements and shoulder pain, okay? So yeah, no shocker, as she puts in here, no surprise that this is the issue, but it doesn't have to be. It's not just because you're getting older, your shoulders are naturally going to hurt. There are plenty of folks out there who have fully functional shoulders, hips, a regular gait, the same posture they had when they were 20 because they've been resistance training and taking care of their bodies up into their 70s and even in their 80s. Yes, gravity is going to get a hold of you at some point and it's going to start to bend or warp you or fold you a little bit, but if you're doing all the exercises and you're eating really well and you're sleeping on the regular and you're doing all the things to take care of your body, you don't have to age this way. But nobody is willing to tell you that unless you talk to the doctor I talked to yesterday, of which I asked her to go on the record. She didn't say no, so I'm working on this, okay? All right, so they looked at these individuals who found, hey, by doing these things, their shoulders feel better, okay? So there's 5 exercises. We're looking at osteoporosis, arthritis, any other injuries or limitations. Talk to your doctor before you do all this stuff, etc. Okay, gardening, we want to keep you functional, be able to move around, do all the things you want to do. All right, here's the big key. Here's the big thing that happens in every one of these that they don't mention. And what is it? You need space You need comfortable clothing. You need a sturdy chair to support you. Water to sip on. Let's get ready to start. What did we miss? What's the most important thing that you need in all this to improve your strength and stability? What's the most important thing that you need? Resistance? Are you shitting me? Like how? Why does it not say and weights or resistant bands or a pulley or something? Where is the external load? Are we still not looking at this? It didn't say the most flexible and mobility based thing for your shoulder. It said exercises. It said exercises. And these exercises, every single demo is done with body weight and then with weight in hand. Why doesn't it say weights right here? This is my problem. You are not sending the right message, which says build muscle mass. You're introducing things, exercises, stuff, good or bad, okay? Well, that's all up for debate and fun in these videos. But what's the bottom line? What's the thing that's most important out of all of this that people really need to know as you get older is you're gonna have more muscle. You're losing your muscle mass. You're losing your bone density. Just by standing here, moving my arms back and forth, that I'm sure it feels fine in the moment, but is it improving my quality of life? Is it gonna make my bones more dense and give me more musculature and help my posture? Fuck no. Excuse my language, but it's not. How are we continuing to miss this? It drives me crazy. Silver sneakers. Come on, dude. Hold a standard, would you? Would you hold a standard and send a good message to people? You've got this great audience, and all you do is fill it up with stuff that it's just feel-good topics. Oh, let's make your shoulders feel better. Mention the weights, man. Come on. Anyway, there's my second rant for the day. I get a little aggravated with this. If anyone knows silver sneakers, please send them my shit. Please send them these, okay? I don't want to write for you. I don't. I mention that every once in a while. Oh, you should let me. I don't like to write. I don't want to write. Okay, not this, not these articles. I want to do videos and I want to explain things to people and I want to get the message out. I guess if I have to write an article to do that, I will. I would just much rather do videos like this and put them on Silver Sneakers channel and let all these people learn what it's like, what you really need to be doing. Basically take every article they've written, add weights to it, it would be fixed. That would be pretty much the answer to almost everything, okay? I am not saying you don't need, mobility, stability, flexibility. I'm not saying all that. All that stuff is great. When we funnel everything down, what's going to make the biggest impact in people? Improving their bone density and muscle mass. How do you do that? With load. All right. Exercise number 1. I have no idea what an out, return, down, up is. I have no idea what a down, out, up, return is, what a out, return, down is, what a in and out and move it over is. I know what a kneeling reverse fly is, kinda. I don't know why we have to be kneeling. I don't know what a forward butterfly circle is. And the diamond down, Y up. Anyway, here's the video of it. Let's look at these as we go through. This is the down, out, in, and up. And he adds weights. Add light weight to challenge. Why does it have to be light? Why isn't it not an appropriate load? Out, return, down. Where are you returning to? Isn't return mean back down to where you started? I don't understand the names, but how do we make it more challenging? Oh, we're gonna add weight. Here's the half kneeling reverse fly. Why can't I do this standing or hinged? Why do I have to be half kneeling? Okay, does the half kneeling change anything for my shoulders? This isn't a full body hip mobility routine. This is for my shoulders. Why would I get down on one knee? Okay, there's actually some pretty good research that suggests circumductions of the shoulders like this is not the most appropriate thing or not the best thing for you to do. That there are certain angles and certain rotations that are much better, like this one. This is a very good angle. It's a face pull, basically, right? Diamond down. I don't understand the names. And then there's the Y. Is that the Y reach? Okay, we call those bent over helps. Like all good things. Okay, like all that stuff is fine. But is it the best thing that you could be delivering to somebody? I guess where I get lost in this a little bit is if you've written an article that says, here are the best 5 exercises for your shoulders, and it's a face pull, and it's a pull down, and it's a pull over, and it's a front and lateral and hinged shoulder fly. We call it the triangle, and a prone row or supinated row, whatever, right? If it's those 5 things, what's your next article going to be about? And your next one, and your next one, right? So I get it. Like, they need material. I get it. You got to have some stuff to write about. I would rather you write that one about those 5 and then do an article about each one of those. And then talk about change in volume for one. Here's for tempo, here's for load, here's for high reps, here's for low reps, here's for eccentric, here's for power, here's for pure strength, here's for isometric. So if I just did all that, that was like 14, 15 different articles right there that I could write on, with the same bottom line is, here's the 5, here's the ones that I think are the best. They all have a resistance component. Now let's look at those each deeper, 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 deeper. But instead we go, here's the best 5 shoulders, and then here's the best 5 shoulders for the morning, best 5 shoulders for night, best 5 shoulders if you play tennis, best 5 shoulders if you're over 50, best 5 shoulders if you're under 50. If these are the 5 best things I could do for my shoulders, what does it matter what age I am, what sport I'm playing, etc.? I need strong shoulders. I need them work in every direction. Now, if I need something specific to sport or to overcome a limitation, that's a different article, right? This is where I get aggravated. It's these overlying topics, an overall intention of the article of what it's trying to cover, but then no depth, nothing to really deliver this in there. So I guess to wrap this video up, Huberman's awesome. Great content. Ice therapy can be very valuable, and I think people should look into it. I think it'll be a very good thing for people to do, most people, and there are options we put in there. That the bottom line for any improvement to your body as you age, if you're trying to improve muscle mass or bone density and trying to improve the quality of life in which you move, resistance training is a must. And there is nothing, zero argument, in my opinion, to be made to suggest otherwise. All of these other things, Tai Chi, tennis, all that stuff is great, and it's all in addition, but what is the foundation of all of that? Your body needs to be strong and capable of moving around. And how do you do that? You do that in here, move in resistance, okay? Now, I'm preaching to the choir, but all of you, I want to arm you with the information so you can go out and teach it to your other people or share this video with someone who hasn't heard it yet. Now, I'm already at my 30 minutes, so I'm going to cap here. In a future video, I want to talk about axial loading, because I mentioned at the beginning, and how I want to emphasize the value of belt squats. So I'm gonna put notes in that for next week, and we'll dive into that. But to wrap up here, we went to an appointment for my wife yesterday, who's having like mid-thoracic back pain issues, right between her shoulder blades, basically. We're trying to figure out, is this a nerve issue or muscular issue? Is she having disc problems, or is it a vertebrae, or whatever it is? So we went to see the specialist. Within 2 minutes of being in there, she asks, 30 seconds in, do you resistance train? And number one, I think she already knew the answer, because and again, not to pat ourselves on the back, but Keegan and I both look like individuals who resistance train, I feel like. So I think she knew that, because she knew where she wanted to take this conversation. We said yes. And she goes, what kind of exercises do you do, and how often do you train, and what's your routine? And I explained that real quick in 30 seconds. And she goes, that's awesome. Don't ever stop doing that. That's one of the best things that you can keep doing as you age, is stay strong. Even if you have an injury. And that was the part where I was like, wait, could you say that again? And she goes, what? And I said, we have so many of our clients that they start to lift, they get strong, they're doing great, and then they'll fall on ice and hurt themselves, or something will happen, they'll end up in front of a doctor, and the doctor will go, well, you're getting older, you need to be careful, don't lift anything over 10 pounds or 15 pounds, or, you really shouldn't be working with kettlebells, or, it's dangerous to do deadlifts, or, you could really hurt yourself by swinging a weight, or, man, you definitely shouldn't be pressing weight over your head. And now that this person in a white medical coat said that, it's the end all be all. And what does this dumb personal trainer know versus this medical doctor? Well, I have to listen to that information now. And now that one incident, it has this blanket effect over everything that they just looked at and they go, I'm never lifting anything over 10 pounds again. And they develop bone density issues and they start to get really weak and their posture starts to fail and they start to round over. And over the next few years, they get worse and worse and worse. And they end up having more limitations and more injuries because their light little weights aren't a challenge for them anymore. And so if they want it to be a challenge, they have to do twice as many reps. And so they're just voluming all their musculature to death. And they're getting all these itises, all these tendonitis issues from overusing their muscles with these little weights in them. And so now this doctor, who I think had the best intentions of just warning an individual and saying, just be careful when you're resistance training, make sure you're using appropriate load and that you're not going to do anything that's going to hurt you in the long run. They didn't say that, and they just said, don't lift over 10 pounds. And now the damage is being done. The injustice that is done with a comment like that, I don't think they understand what that long-term effect has. And I know right now, a bunch of you coaches and trainers are all nodding your head going, yep, I've heard that same story multiple times. And so up I come with my, NSCA CPT certificate versus this medical doctor. And I say, no, actually you should be lifting weights. It's much better. And my doctor said this, what do you know? And now we're out. So that's why when I see Huberman preaching, Peter Attia preaching, myself with a master's degree, Brad Schoenfeld with a master's and a doctoral degree, when you see these individuals who have higher degrees and higher levels of education preaching this information out to people, that's why we grab onto that and we go, look at these smart people who have doctors in front of their names, right? Who spent 15 years of extra education. There are doctors in our field who are telling everybody to lift weights. There's just not enough. There's a handful. And that's where videos like this and people like us, we need to spread the word. So until next time, please subscribe, please like this video, please help us grow our community, but most importantly, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. And the way you do that is by spreading the word and teaching people that being undermuscled, undermassed, and deconditioned is not good for them. And that it's never too late and they can always make a comeback at any age to improve their quality of life. And it starts today. We don't do it tomorrow. We won't start at the end of the year. We won't start with next week. It starts right now. Every single workout matters. Every single rep, every single exercise matters. In one workout, I can have you feeling better. And you know it. You just got to want it. I'm Robert Linkul, trainingtheolderadult.com, sending you love and education. And until next time, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Peace.